Mud-dried and pale seams across Josephine Tanner's skirt as she knelt on the foaling stall floor and scrubbed away what the flood had carried in. Dawn had not yet reached the high windows. A lantern smoked above her, making the two newborn foals beside the partition seem carved from copper and cream. They had both learned her whistle before they had learned the shape of daylight. Josephine gave the low three-note call now. The bay colt lifted his narrow head. The little cream filly stopped searching along her mother's flank and turned one soft ear toward Josephine. Behind them, the injured mare breathed hard but evenly, her hind leg wrapped in the bandage Josephine had tied in darkness while rain struck the roof like thrown gravel. Boots sounded in the aisle. "Who saved my newborn foals?" August Winslow asked. He stood with one hand braced on the stall door, wet to the shoulders, his face gray from a night spent searching washed fences. Leander Carver came behind him, dry beneath his coat and ready with an answer. "They got lucky," the foreman said. "Though that mare didn't, Tanner moved her wrong." Josephine rose slowly. She had worked at Winslow Ranch for 6 weeks, long enough to know how blame traveled downhill. A woman hired to clean stalls stood at the bottom of every slope. "She strained the tendon before the water came in," Josephine said. "Heat above the fetlock swelling along the outside. I cooled it, wrapped it, and kept her from fighting the gate when the lower stalls flooded." Leander glanced at the mare as if the animal had betrayed him by still standing. "A cleaner's opinion." "No, a horsewoman's." The colt came to Josephine's whistle again and pressed his damp muzzle against her palm. August looked from the foal to the bandage. "It's not lay flat, beyond the mare's reach, exactly where a practiced hand would leave it." "You stayed here through the flood?" he asked. "The mare stayed." Something changed in his face, not gratitude yet, but shame finding its proper owner. Leander pointed to the swelling. "If she knows so much, let her answer when that leg goes bad." Josephine met his eyes. "I will answer for every choice I made. I won't invent an excuse for men who did not stay to make one." The aisle went quiet except for the mare's breath. August opened the stall door. "Show me what she needs before daylight warms that leg." He did not apologize. Josephine had learned not to build hope from words a man had not spoken. But when she asked for cold cloths, he fetched them himself, and when Leander tried to interrupt, August told him to wait. By full morning, the injured mare was resting, the foals had nursed, and Josephine found August waiting at the barn office doorway. He held a ring of keys in one hand and an offer in the other. "Take charge of the foaling barn," he said. "There's a room above the harness shed, meals at the house, better wages." Leander leaned against the wall. "Under my supervision, naturally. She'll need someone who knows the ranch." Josephine wiped her hands on a clean rag. The room and meals sounded dangerously like kindness, whose price could be named later. "I will take paid charge," she said. "If charge means authority over feed, tools, mare movement, and the hands assigned here. I want wage dates written in the ledger. I keep my own room in town, and if I leave without owing for shelter you chose to offer." August's brows rose. "You think I'd hold a bed over you?" "I think clear terms keep decent people decent." Leander laughed. "A ledger won't keep a barn standing when another mare goes down." August's first answer was anger, but he swallowed it. "What tools?" Josephine named them. 2 sound halters, clean ropes, foaling straps, a lantern that did not leak oil, a locked chest for medicines, and a scale for feed. August wrote each item beneath the day's date. Then he wrote Josephine Tanner beside foaling barn authority and set the next 3 wage dates below it. "Freedom to leave," he said, touching the line with the pen. "No debt for any room, meal, or horse. And no supervisor between me and a mare in trouble." His gaze went to Leander. "Agreed." The foreman's smile thinned until it was only a pale line. August had offered Josephine protection. She had made him offer respect instead. It was a smaller-looking thing and a far more costly one. The cost appeared before noon. Josephine opened the feed shed and found the foaling cart empty. The bins held ranch grain, but the measured oats and bran meant for pregnant mares were gone. A dun mare in the near paddock had already begun to tremble with weakness. Leander turned the key on one finger. Supplies were needed elsewhere. Where I sent them. Josephine measured what remained, marked the shortage by weight and hour in her new ledger, then saddled the oldest barn horse. At a homestead 2 miles east, she traded half a day's future care for molasses mash and brought it back warm beneath a cloth. The dun mare ate in small, careful mouthfuls while Josephine stood beside her. Leander watched from the fence. Tiny marks in a book, that's your authority. No, she said. The mare standing tomorrow is my authority. The marks are how I remember who let her go hungry. A ranch hand galloped into the yard before Leander could answer. 2 heavy mares were moved south, toward the old crossing. Josephine looked at the sky. The rain had stopped, but floodwater did not care what fell from above. It gathered in gullies and came late. Who ordered it? The hand looked toward Leander. Josephine was already reaching for her hat. She and August caught the mares on the road where it dropped toward the crossing. Brown water pushed between the banks, carrying branches and strips of fence. The rider leading the mares held them at the slope, uncertain. August studied the current. Leander's report said the bank was firm by daybreak. Josephine dismounted. Fresh hoofprints pressed deep into the clay, but the edges had begun to fill with water. She broke a willow switch and pushed it into the ground. The bank swallowed half its length without resistance. Turn them back, she said. The north pasture has no feed. Then we find feed, turn them now. One mare stepped sideways, her weight sliding toward the river. Josephine caught the lead rope close beneath the jaw and lowered her own shoulders, giving the animal something steady to follow. August moved without being told, planting himself uphill and pressing a palm against the mare's neck. Together they brought her around. The instant her hind feet cleared the edge, a shelf of clay folded into the water. August stared at the place where she would have fallen. I should have asked you first. Yes. He accepted the answer without defending himself. That mattered more than a prettier one. They walked the mares back until the animal's breathing eased. Josephine showed August the route she wanted instead, west through the narrow canyon, then north by a chain of homesteads above the flood line. We need sound tack at 3 stops, she said. Fresh riders, feed waiting at the second. You cannot order any of it. Those people don't work for Winslow Ranch. Then how do we get it? We ask, we pay, and if they say no, we find another road. He looked again at the collapsed bank, then at her. Tell me where to begin. Josephine did not answer until they had led the mares onto firm ground. Then she knelt in the road and drew the country with the end of her willow switch. The ranch at the center, the broken crossing to the south, the canyon west, and 3 small circles for the homesteads beyond it. At the first stop we change the lead ropes. At the second, the mares rest and feed. At the third, we need riders who know the high trail. Nobody pushes a tired animal to keep a schedule. August crouched across from her. His shadow fell over the map, and he shifted aside so she could see it. What do you want me to do? Carry what they lend us, keep the account, let me do the asking. He nodded once, when? First light. Behind them, the turned-back mare lowered her head to a patch of wet grass. Josephine listened until the animal began to tear and chew. Only then did she stand. At the ranch, Leander waited beside the empty feed cart. His gaze moved from the mud on August's knees to the 2 mares coming safely up the road. Crossing hold, he asked. It collapsed, August said. Leander gave a slow shrug. Water changes things. So does seeing them clearly, Josephine said. She entered the shortage in the ledger, locked it in the office drawer, and kept the key. That night, as she checked the injured mare's cooling leg and heard the newborns rustling in clean straw, she understood that recognition had not made her safe. It had made her visible to a man who preferred her small. Still, beyond the barn wall waited a road Leander did not own and people he could not command. At first light, she meant to use both. Before sleeping, Josephine made one final circuit. She loosened the injured mare's wrap, checked the heat with the back of her fingers, and tied it again with less pressure. The foals rose when she entered, all long legs and startled dignity. Their mothers watched her without alarm. August appeared outside the stall carrying the repaired lantern and the tool chest named in her agreement. He set both down rather than bringing them inside without permission. "Anything else before morning?" he asked. "Tell the hands the mares do not move unless I see the route first." "I already did." "Tell them again at dawn. Leander will count on habit being louder than one order." August looked toward the dark office. "How did you learn to expect that?" Josephine stroked the cream filly's neck. "By being praised when work went well and blamed when someone powerful needed the praise back." He absorbed the answer without asking her to comfort him for resembling those men. "It will not happen here again." "Do not promise what only tomorrow can prove." "Then tomorrow," he said. He left the lantern at the threshold. Josephine carried it in herself. When she finally climbed to her room in town, mud had dried beneath her nails and exhaustion dragged at every step. Yet the memory she took to sleep was not August's offer of protection. It was his shadow shifting aside from the map so she could see her own road. Morning found Josephine riding west with August a horse-length behind her. The land rose out of the flooded flats in long folds of sage and stone. At each homestead, she dismounted first. She asked for what she needed without softening the size of the favor. 2 good halters at the first stop, a feed rest and warm mash at the second, 3 riders and a spare pack horse at the third. In return, she offered barn account payment and a day of foaling care to every household that lent time. August carried saddles, counted coins, and spoke only when she gave him a task. At the second homestead, an older woman watched him tighten a pack strap under Josephine's correction. "Too high," Josephine said. August lowered it. "Here." "There." The woman hid a smile. "That one may be teachable." Josephine nearly smiled too, but a rider appeared on the ridge before the feeling could settle. He brought word from the ranch. Leander had canceled the foaling barn feed order. By the time they returned, the yard was full of listening men pretending to work. Leander stood at the storehouse steps with the canceled slip tucked into his vest. "We cannot pay half the county because Miss Tanner wants a parade of borrowed saddles," he announced. "She's draining the ranch to prove she can." August reached for the storehouse key. "I'll reverse it." Quietly, Josephine asked. He stopped. "If you restore it as a favor to me, he cancels it again when you turn your back. Put the order under the authority you gave me. Let every hand here know whose decision it is." August looked at the silent yard. Loyalty to Leander lived there in years of habit, repaired fences, shared winters. He took the slip from the foreman's vest, set it on a barrel, and rode across it. Restored by authorization of Josephine Tanner, foaling barn. "Fill it today," he told the storekeeper. No one moved at first. Then the storekeeper lifted the bar. Leander's face did not change, but his stillness became dangerous. "Those mares are already beyond the only safe canyon route." Josephine heard the trap inside the claim. "Then we go see where they are." "You'll find them when they come back," Leander said. "If they come back." That evening the mares were accounted for, but the ranch seemed to hold its breath. Josephine worked late in the barn while August repaired a loose stall latch. He had hammered it twice before she took the tool from his hand and showed him the angle. "You keep striking where the wood is weak," she said. "That appears to be a habit of mine." The answer carried no self-pity. She handed the hammer back. "I thought taking responsibility meant making every decision," he said. "My father ran this place that way. Leander admired him for it. And now I think responsibility may mean knowing what to relinquish." He drove the nail at her angle. The latch settled square. For a moment they stood close enough that she could smell rain in his coat. His hand rested beside hers on the stall rail. Want moved between them, quiet and unmistakable. Josephine did not step away, but she did not step nearer. "Trust is shown by what you relinquish," she said, "not by what you promise to give later." August reached into his pocket and placed the barn keys in her palm. "There is no duplicate." The iron was warm from his body. It would have been easy to mistake warmth for certainty. "Earn the next step in daylight," she whispered. His fingers closed gently beneath hers, not holding, only acknowledging. Then a mare called from the outer pasture, a low, strained sound that emptied tenderness from the aisle. They ran. The laboring mare stood beyond the flood line, flanks dark with sweat, her lead rope hanging loose. No feed wagon had followed her. Leander arrived from the opposite direction and took in the scene. "Pull her to the barn," he ordered. "We lose light, we lose the foal." Josephine put one hand against the mare's shoulder and felt the tremor passing through it. "Moving her now may turn trouble into disaster. We stabilize her here. Blankets for a windbreak, lanterns low, water in small amounts." "You plan to build a house around her." "A relay shelter. Then we wait until she can safely move." Leander called to the hands, but they looked toward August. August looked toward Josephine. "What comes first?" "2 poles, canvas. Keep everyone behind her shoulder and quiet." "You heard her," he said. "Josephine's call is the ranch's call tonight." The words passed through the men like a change in weather. They moved. Canvas rose. Lanterns were shaded. Josephine worked beside the mare until the animal's breath lengthened and her muscles stopped fighting every touch. Leander watched obedience leave him. Delay has a price. "So does haste," Josephine answered. The mare lowered her nose into Josephine's hand. There would be no dramatic pull, no victory forced before its hour. The safest decision was sometimes to create enough calm for life to do its own work. Leander mounted. "I'll clear the canyon myself." "Leave it alone," August said. The foreman rode away without answering. Josephine kept her attention on the mare. A foreman's wounded pride could wait, a laboring animal could not. She loosened the halter one notch, checked the gums for color, and showed a hand how to offer water without crowding the mare's head. When a contraction tightened the animal's flank, Josephine spoke in the same low cadence she used for frightened foals. August stood at the edge of the lantern glow until she beckoned him closer. "Put your hand here," she said, guiding his palm to the mare's neck. "Do not rub, just let her know the space is held." He obeyed. The mare's skin quivered beneath his hand, then settled. "I used to think help meant doing the hardest part," he said. "Sometimes the hardest part is not taking it away from the person who knows how." The wind pressed against the canvas. Outside, men carried feed and watched the dark road Leander had taken. Inside the small shelter, no one chased him and no one hurried the mare for the sake of proving who had been right. Near midnight, the immediate labor eased. Josephine judged that the mare could rest where she stood until dawn, guarded in shifts. She gave each hand one simple duty and made August repeat the order back before she left. "Warm water, quiet lantern, call me if her breathing changes." Warm water, quiet lantern, breathing changes. It was not romance. not in any manner she had once imagined it. Yet the sight of a powerful man accepting correction beside a frightened mare reached a guarded place in her more surely than any grand declaration could have done. On the walk back, they stopped at the feed shed. The restored order had arrived in burlap sacks stacked beneath the awning. Josephine broke the seal on each one, checked for damp, and assigned the best grain to the mares on the western route. August entered the amounts in her ledger while she called them out. "You may sleep sometime," he said, "after the morning check." That was not an order. "Good, you are learning." His quiet laugh surprised her. It did not ask her to make him comfortable or forgive him faster. It simply warmed the cold shed for a breath. At the barn door, Josephine tested the new latch. It held. August made no show of having repaired it. He waited while she locked the medicines, then handed back the ledger after signing only the supply receipt, leaving her authority line untouched. "Leander will use the canyon because he thinks speed makes him right," she said. "At dawn, we check every marker before a mare enters. And if he has moved them, then we do not waste the animal's strength chasing the plan we wanted. We read what is there." August looked toward the western dark. "I have spent years reading what I expected to see. Tomorrow read the ground." Josephine climbed the loft steps for an hour's rest, the sole barn keys at her waist. Below, the foals shifted beside their mothers. The ranch was not safe yet, but its most vulnerable lives no longer depended on Leander's permission to be cared for. Before climbing farther, Josephine looked back toward the outer pasture. The mare was settled beneath the relay shelter, and the keys weighed safely against her skirt. At the loft landing, she paused over the aisle. The hands had followed her instructions even after she left the shelter. One changed the water. Another checked the canvas ties. No one waited for Leander to make the work legitimate. Authority, she realized, did not live in the keys against her hip. It lived in whether care continued when she was not there to defend it. August remained below, reviewing the relay list. 3 stops, he said. 2 spare riders, feed at the middle homestead. And the canyon markers checked before entry. Before entry. If Leander says he cleared it, we still check. We check. The repeated words eased something in her, but not enough to dull caution. She gave him the first watch at the laboring mare and took the second herself. Through the hours, the mare rested. Through the same hours, the river continued climbing in the dark. On her watch, Josephine found fresh hoofprints outside the shelter, Leander's gray gelding, circling once before turning west. He had wanted them to know he was moving ahead. She marked the prints in her mind, not as evidence for a hearing, but as a warning to inspect everything his hands could reach. When August returned at the change of watch, she showed him the tracks. "Call him back," he asked. "He will not answer. We gather the hands before he can divide their instructions. And if he makes me choose." Josephine looked at him in the last darkness before dawn. "Then choose the mares. Do not choose me because you want me. Choose the work you know is right." He held her gaze. "That may be the first choice I have made clearly in years." "He intends something," August said. "He has intended something since the foals answered me. I should dismiss him now and send every secret he holds down the road with him, not while mares are scattered and routes are changing. First we bring them safe. Then we decide what authority he has left." August's jaw tightened, but he nodded. He had asked for her judgment and received an answer that did not soothe him. Before dawn, Leander entered the ranch office with a route map beneath his arm. The speed of his return told Josephine he had not cleared anything. "The West Canyon remains fastest," he said to the gathered hands. "Tanner's delays have cost us half a day. We drive the mares straight through and stop nursing every fear she names." Josephine set 3 things on the desk: her feed ledger, a clay-stained switch from the collapsed crossing, and the relay schedule promised by the neighboring homesteads. The crossing failed exactly where I said it would. Feed disappeared exactly when these mares needed it. The relay gives us rest, tack, and riders above the water. I will take that route. If August will not stop you, I will ride it alone and warn every lender myself." She did not look at August while she spoke. Her future could not depend upon whether he found courage at the proper moment. Leander turned to him. "Choose carefully. I've held this ranch together since before she knew its gait." August studied the ledger, then the man who had taught him to treat habit as proof. "We follow Josephine's plan," he said. "Every mare, every rider. For her. For the mares, and because betrayal is risking them to keep command." Leander's expression hardened. He walked out before August could call him back. A moment later, hoofbeats struck the yard and raced west. Josephine snatched up the relay schedule. "He's going to the canyon." August was already at the door. "Then this time we reach it knowing whose judgment we follow." The relay moved out beneath a colorless sky. At the canyon approach, Josephine raised her hand and every rider halted. The gate chain lay in the mud, one link bright where a tool had bitten through it. Beyond the gate, the marker posts that should have shown firm ground were gone. Hooves had churned the bank into a slick descending shelf. August dismounted beside her. "Leander." Josephine picked up the cut chain. Anger rose clean and cold in her, but the mares shifted behind them, nervous at the smell of water. Pursuing Leander would spend the time he meant them to lose. "The safe approach is finished," she said. "We use the side channel." "Is it passable?" "It was yesterday. Today we read it again." August did not offer an answer. "What do you need?" She sent one rider upstream to judge the current, another to bring the first relay horses down, and August to walk the bank with a rope around his waist. The side channel was narrow, but it bent sharply around a stone shelf. Water that reached a horse's knees at the entrance climbed higher at the bend. "One at a time," Josephine said. "Quiet order, no bunching." They had nearly positioned the first mare when a borrowed cinch tore. The saddle slid, striking the animal's flank. She lunged backward and set the whole string trembling. Josephine cut the loose strap free and gave the frightened mare her whistle. The familiar 3 notes traveled along the canyon wall. One ear turned toward her. Then the mare's head lowered by an inch. "We have no horse left to spare," August said. "Take the strongest relay rider and go back for the pack horse. Bring the long rope and every dry blanket." He looked at the rising edge of water around her boots. "Come with me." "She will bolt if I leave." "Then I stay." "No, you carry my order back. If we both stay, no help comes." Fear showed in his face without disguising itself as authority. He gripped the saddle horn, then released it. "Tell me once more." "Pack horse, long rope. Dry blankets, fast, but do not founder amount getting here." August met her eyes. "I will return." Return ready to listen. He rode away. Josephine remained with the mare as the others led the safer animals to higher ground. The frightened one began to labor in earnest, muscles tightening beneath Josephine's hand. Water covered the tops of Josephine's boots and turned her skirt heavy. She moved the mare onto the narrowest patch of gravel, kept the rope slack, and repeated the care steps aloud. "Watch the breath. Feel the shoulder. Give her space behind. Do not force movement between contractions." A horse appeared on the upper bank. For one hopeful instant she thought August had returned. Then Leander rode down on an easy gray gelding, dry above the stirrups. "You chose poorly," he said. "You cut the chain." "I removed a bad route before you marched the ranch into it." "And the markers?" "Markers confuse people who think a stake in mud is knowledge." The mare shuddered. Josephine put her palm against the animal's neck. Leander held out a hand. "Leave your relay. Tell August you caused this by overruling me, and I'll take you out on the gray. The men can handle the mare." The bargain was shaped like safety. All she had to surrender was the truth, her authority, and the animal that trusted her not to hurry. "No. Water is still rising." "Then use your dry horse to bring the long rope." "Not until you admit whose place this is." Josephine looked up at him. "That is why you emptied feed, moved mares, and cut the route, not to save the ranch, to make every living thing here prove your place." His silence connected what no paper needed to explain. "Last offer," he said. "Go." He wheeled the gray and climbed the bank. When he disappeared, Josephine's steadiness went with him for 3 breaths. The channel pressed harder at her legs. The mare could not safely climb. August might find the upper road broken, the pack horse lame, the rope missing. Trust in an absent man felt very much like foolishness. Josephine shut her eyes and started again. Watch the breath, feel the shoulder, give her space. The mare leaned into her. Josephine braced her feet and thought of the newborn colt turning toward her whistle in the dark barn. Skill was not certainty. It was the next correct choice made before certainty arrived. She heard a whistle upstream. 3 low notes answered by the canyon wall. She did not move at once. Hope could make a person careless as quickly as fear. Josephine tested the gravel beneath the mare again and watched the upstream bend. The whistle came a second time, closer and steadier. Until the riders appeared, she kept working alone. She folded her coat and wedged it beneath the mare's lead rope where the wet fiber had begun to rub. She checked the animal's breathing, then the movement along her flank. Labor had not stopped, but neither had it advanced into the danger Leander had predicted. Patience had preserved the time his shortcut would have stolen. On the upper trail, one of the relay women appeared first, leading the packhorse by hand. August followed on foot so the animal would not be forced down the slick grade. 2 ranch riders came behind with the long rope carried between them. No one galloped. No one shouted Josephine's name as if noise could save her. They had returned the way she had asked. The sight struck deeper than relief. All her life men had praised a woman's competence while it served them, then seized the reins the instant danger made obedience inconvenient. August had been afraid when he left. He had gone anyway. Now he came back carrying her plan, not a replacement for it. Josephine raised one palm, warning them to hold at the firm bank while the mare's contraction passed. August stopped every rider with a sweep of his arm. He did not call down a question until Josephine nodded. "Where do you want us?" The words crossed the water cleanly. She glanced once toward the ridge where Leander had vanished. He had offered rescue in exchange for surrender. August offered presence in exchange for nothing, and even that presence waited for placement. Josephine felt the difference in her body before she found language for it. The fear was still there. The water still rose. The mare still trembled. But she was no longer spending strength defending her right to choose while trying to keep an animal alive. She pointed to the stone shelf and began calling assignments. The low point did not end because a man had arrived. It ended because the right man had returned willing to remain useful on her terms. First, she made them repeat the order. The upstream anchor would hold the line. The downstream rider would give slack, never drag. Blankets stayed dry until every mare reached the far bank. The strongest horse remained unburdened in case an animal needed to be led back rather than forced ahead. Each answer came in the same words she had used. Josephine listened for confusion and heard none. Behind her, the mare released a long breath. Above her, August removed his coat and tied the rope around his waist without assuming where he would stand. Only then did Josephine allow herself to believe the relay had truly returned. For the few minutes it took them to prepare, she narrowed the world to what mattered. The mare's fear could spread to the string. The current could take a rider's footing. The rope could help only if no one used it to drag an animal beyond her balance. She placed each risk beside a specific response until fear became a sequence. She sent the relay woman to the far bank with blankets. She assigned one man to watch the upstream debris and call if a branch threatened the line. Another would keep the waiting mares turned away from the water so they did not see each slip. August would stand downstream because he was strong enough to resist the current and, more importantly, had shown he would release pressure when she told him. "If I say slack, you give all of it," she called. "Even if she is sliding. Especially then, a tight line can roll her." He nodded. The laboring mare stamped once. Josephine let her smell the rope, then brushed it along her shoulder before bringing it around her chest. Nothing was hidden from the animal and nothing was rushed. On the high bank, the remaining mares began to crowd. Josephine lifted her whistle but did not sound it yet. One familiar cue had to remain available for the moment ordinary handling failed. The water climbed another finger width over the gravel. A rider asked whether they should wait for it to fall. "It is rising from rain upstream," Josephine said. "Waiting closes the road. Hurrying scatters the herd. We move now in order." No one challenged her. The cut chain lay visible in the mud behind them, and Leander was nowhere near the consequence he had made. Josephine stepped to the channel edge. August waited above the bend with riders behind him, the packhorse carrying coils of rope and folded blankets. He did not charge down to seize her. He remained where the bank was firm and waited for her signal. "Rope to the stone shelf," she called. "Anchor upstream. Keep everyone out of the mare's path." The riders moved under his hands, but the commands remained hers. A line came across the water. Josephine tied it loosely around the mare's chest only when the contraction eased. August entered the channel downstream, taking the pressure of the current against his own legs. "Where do you want me?" "There, not closer. If she slips, hold the line low. Do not pull her head." "Understood." The mare took one step. Water broke white around her knees. Josephine whistled, waited, then asked for another. Behind them, the rest of the string began to call. The sound could become panic if they delayed much longer. Josephine divided the riders, 2 at the entrance, 1 at the bend, August downstream, herself at the lead. The frightened mare had to cross first or no other animal would trust the water. "On my count," Josephine said. She watched the mare breathe. 1, wait. 2, wait. At 3, she stepped backward into the current and the mare followed. The rope tightened. August held it low. The mare reached the stone shelf, slipped once, recovered, and came on. When her forefeet found the far gravel, the riders behind Josephine repeated her whistle without being told. The mare climbed out. Josephine pressed her forehead briefly to the wet neck. The hardest crossing still remained, the whole string in rising water, but hope had become movement. Across the channel, August waited for the next direction, exactly where she had placed him. "Bring the quiet gray next," she called. "Then the chestnut. Keep the 2 nervous mares apart." The relay riders repeated the order up the line. Josephine took her place at the entrance again. The gray crossed with only one pause. The chestnut tried to turn at the bend, but August gave slack the instant Josephine raised her hand. Without the rope fighting her, the mare found her footing and followed the whistle to the far bank. One by one, the string moved through. There was no single heroic moment. There were 20 small decisions made before panic could gather. A rope lowered, a rider moved, a blanket held back, a mare allowed to smell the current before entering it. Josephine called the rhythm until every voice in the canyon carried her cadence. The last mare was the oldest, heavy with foal and exhausted by the weight. She planted her feet above the channel and would not descend. Water carried a broken branch against the rope line. The upstream watcher shouted. August ducked beneath the snapping limb and held his position, but the mare recoiled from the noise. "Do not pull," Josephine said. She climbed back to the entrance, turned the waiting animal away from the water and walked a slow circle on firm ground. Once, twice. On the third turn, she let the mare fall in behind the gray she had trusted all season. The gray was brought back to the near edge, not into danger, only close enough to offer companionship. Josephine whistled. The old mare answered with one uncertain step, then another. At the bend, the current rose against her belly. August braced downstream. The rope line hummed but held. Josephine walked backward, never taking the mare's eyes away from her. When the animal slipped, Josephine gave her room to recover instead of hauling her upright. The mare found stone beneath the water and surged forward. The surge pulled Josephine off balance. Cold water struck above her knees, and for one breath the mare's shoulder blocked the far bank from view. The downstream line tightened as August took the current, but he did not haul. He waited for Josephine's hand. Behind them, the remaining riders began to crowd toward the crossing. They had seen the mare move and mistook movement for safety. "Hold the bank," Josephine called. "No one follows until she is clear." The old mare faltered again. Her hind foot searched the submerged stone and found only current. Josephine could pull her toward the gravel and risk turning her sideways, or give her room to step back into deeper water. Every frightened instinct urged force. She raised her palm to August. "Slack all of it." The rope softened at once. Freed from pressure, the mare lowered her head and felt for the shelf again. Josephine stepped sideways, opening the path rather than filling it with her own body. The mare's hoof touched stone. She gathered herself and climbed. Only then did Josephine send the gray companion forward to meet her. The old mare pressed nose to shoulder with the calmer animal, shuddering while Josephine checked each leg. No blood, no torn skin, no heat beginning beneath the fetlocks, only exhaustion and fear slowly leaving. Across the water, the riders remained where she had placed them. August's obedience had traveled through the whole relay. The men who once waited for Leander's command now waited for Josephine's judgment, even with water rising around their boots. "Bring the next two to the entrance," she said. "Leave a horse length between them." The final crossings came faster but not carelessly. Josephine kept the order she had chosen and refused to let relief become haste. When the last hoof left the channel, the upstream watcher lowered his arms. August released the rope, and the canyon seemed to exhale with them. Josephine counted every mare twice before allowing the first blanket to be unfolded. The string was whole. The result belonged not to luck or command, but to a sequence every rider had seen her build and August had trusted enough to follow. Her final step landed on the far bank to a silence deeper than cheering. Every rider seemed to understand that noise did not belong to the moment. The old mare stood shaking, alive, her nose against Josephine's shoulder. Only after the string was bedded on high ground did Leander return. He rode down from the northern trail and took in the wet riders, the exhausted mares, and August holding a downstream rope beneath Josephine's command. "Reckless," he said loudly. She drove them through floodwater when the canyon gate was closed for their protection. Several hands looked at him. Habit tried to lift its head one last time. August climbed the bank and laid 3 things in the mud before Leander's horse. The chain with its fresh-cut link, 1 marker post found thrown among the willows, and the abandoned route order carrying Leander's mark. "The gate was cut," August said. "The markers were removed. You abandoned the route order after sending the mares toward danger." Leander pointed toward the mares. "They survived. That proves the route was never as dangerous as she claimed." Josephine did not turn from the old mare. She checked the animal's legs, offered water, and covered her with the driest blanket. Survival was not permission to repeat the danger. One of the hands picked up the severed chain. Another looked at the missing post. A third folded Leander's abandoned order and gave it to August. Then, without insult or spectacle, they turned away from the foreman. "Where do you want the mares bedded, Miss Tanner?" a rider asked. "Above the cottonwoods, out of the wind. Mash for the old one first. Keep the gray beside her until she settles." The men followed. The change moved through the far bank without anyone naming it. A rider who had once repeated Leander's orders now waited for Josephine to finish checking the old mare before asking where to carry feed. Another lowered his voice near the laboring animal because she had taught him why calm mattered. August remained beside the discarded rope, wet and breathing hard, making no claim on the rescue. Josephine saw authority become real not as applause, but as careful work continuing in the shape she had given it. Leander's authority ended in the simple fact that no living creature waited for his instruction. August asked Josephine what consequence she wanted. She kept the answer plain. Leander would take his wages and belongings and leave the property that day, without ranch records, a ranch horse, or authority over any mare. August announced her decision without cruelty or amendment. Leander argued once, saw the hands continue their work, and rode east with his own saddlebags. Josephine watched only until he crossed the ridge, then returned to the animals he had risked. 2 weeks later, the injured mare walked sound in a quiet paddock, and both newborn foals came at Josephine's whistle. On the barn office desk lay a new ledger that bore no Winslow brand. Josephine Tanner, Mobile Foal Care Circuit, crossed its first page, followed by 6 paid calls from the homesteads that had lent tack and riders. At sunrise, Josephine fastened that ledger inside her coat and checked the medicine roll for the first booked call. August waited by the gate with spare blankets secured behind his saddle. "May I ride with you?" he asked, not as owner of the ranch, as a man who would like to be useful beside you if you have a place for him. Josephine considered the choices he had made since the flood. Keys surrendered without a duplicate, authority defended in daylight, fear mastered by following rather than seizing command. The road and the work remained hers. Wanting him no longer threatened either truth. "You may ride beside me," she said. "You do not ride ahead." "Agreed." "And you carry the blankets." "Gladly." The daylight she had asked him to earn lay clear across his face. "May I kiss you?" he asked. Josephine said yes, freely and without watching who might take the happiness from her. Their first kiss held no claim beyond the actions already proven. When they parted, he waited for her to mount first. A lantern rose on the eastern road, signaling a mare in labor. Josephine swung into the saddle and gave the direction at the cottonwoods. August followed her turn and settled beside her, neither crowding her horse nor falling back in false humility. Beyond the ridge, a newborn foal gave a thin call. Josephine answered with her 3-note whistle. August tried the notes after her, rough but recognizable. "Teachable," she said. "So I have been told." If this journey of dignity, careful courage, and chosen partnership has earned a place with you, you are welcome to subscribe and ride with the next story. Josephine faced the brightening road again. Her paid work waited ahead, her name rested safely over her heart, and the man beside her followed when she chose the turn.